Let's be totally honest here, if I didn't do a second Lilo and Stitch SCPs episode now, I was probably going to end up forgetting about it and putting it off, getting distracted, and probably just not doing it. And people gave me lots of great suggestions in the previous video's comment section and on the PopCross Studios Patreon, so I figured let's get to some of the requested ones and of course add Stitch into this series. I mean, I've referenced him already, and design-wise he seems like he's someone who really should be in this episode. So thanks for all the ideas, and let's get into it, shall we? Let's hit like if you want, subscribe if you feel like, but either way, enjoy the show. Good evening once more, all, and welcome back to a frustrating follow-up to our prior lecture on the recently captured set of SCP experiments created by Dr. Jukiba. As many of you have likely heard, there have been some developments pertaining to the containment of these creatures. As mentioned previously, we were able to find the traitorous former SCP doctor after receiving a tip-off from a local Hawaiian woman whose younger sister had accidentally adopted one of Jukiba's escaped experiments from a local dog shelter. We believed that one of our operatives had acquired that experiment as well, but as it turns out, the now ex-operative, Cobra Bubbles, was convinced to allow the girl to keep the experiment as a pet. The girl and experiment then concocted a plan to rescue the other experiments from our containment, and astoundingly have managed to now release 7 previously contained SCPs back into the wild. The reason they were able to do this was largely due to the abundant ability set of the girl's so-called pet experiment. This creature is designated item number SCP-J626. Object class, Keter. Primary function, Incite Chaos. Special containment procedures. Once apprehended, J626 is to be housed in a triple titanium reinforced cell with an airtight seal. The cell is to be connected to a water system that can fill the room within 1 minute of noticing a risk of breach. If necessary, the creature is to be drowned in its cell, then resuscitated once in a new, suitable containment. Description: SCP-J626 was the final experiment made by Dr. Jukiba prior to his capture. It stands at only 3 feet tall and commonly resembles a 4-armed blue koala bear with 2 antennae sprouting from its head. It also has the ability to shift form and retract 2 of its arms and its antennae into its body, which was how it was initially able to be mistaken for a dog. Despite this small package, it has an abundance of dangerous abilities. It is bulletproof, fireproof, can think faster than a supercomputer, can see in the dark, and has near unthinkable strength, proven able to lift 3,000 times its own body weight. Footage of the creature interacting with the girl currently working with it shows that it has manipulated her into thinking that it is her ally and that it cares for her. Given its incredible intelligence and primary function being to cause global chaos, we are certain that this is all treachery in pursuit of its ultimate goal: to release Jukiba's experiments to bring about the end of the world, as was Jukiba's original intent in creating these experiments in the first place. This creature has very little in the way of weaknesses. According to Jukiba in interrogations of him, J626 is even immune to the siren song of experiment J624. Luckily, Jukiba had one oversight in its making. The creature is so dense and heavy for its small size that it is incapable of swimming and can easily drown in large enough masses of water. Units previously dispatched to locate the Chaos Insurgency headquarters housing the few of Jukiba's experiments they'd managed to acquire have now been reassigned to finding and capturing J626, as well as recapturing the experiments it recently helped release from our custody. The following subjects we'll cover today are experiments that are now back in the world thanks to this whole debacle. One of the first entities freed was luckily not one of the ones with more inherently Earth-threatening abilities, though it does have the capacity to do a fair amount of harm in its own right. Item number SCP-J619. Object class, Safe. Primary function, Plasma Blast. Special Containment Procedures. Prior to being freed by J626, J619 was held in a standard containment cell with heat-resistant walls. Prior to personnel entering its containment, the creature is to be doused with water to prevent it from utilizing its projectile attacks. Description: SCP-J619 appears similar to a blend of a hog and a lobster. It has 4 crustacean-like legs as well as 2 arms with 3 clawed fingers on each. Along with its legs, it will often use its arms to walk and crawl. Its limbs excrete a high-friction substance that allows it to easily stick to walls. This makes it highly mobile and capable of scaling almost any surface with ease, which it will likely utilize in combat scenarios to get the high ground against its opponents. This is optimal for it due to its primary weapon of choice. J619 also has a large head proportionally to its body and a wide nose which often glows with a hot yellow or orange hue. This is because the creature has within its body a biological nuclear reactor. This allows it to create radioactive plasma bolts that it can then fire from its nostrils like a cannon, making it highly effective at ranged combat. It also has shown capable of using its nostrils as a flamethrower, though this is not as effective at a range as the flames disperse to greatly beyond roughly 45 yards, while its plasma bolts can strike targets beyond 300 yards. The entity also has incredible targeting abilities thanks to its specially enhanced eyes. It can zoom in and out to get a better look at foes from afar. It also has infrared vision and can see very easily in the dark. Luckily, the entity itself is also quite often easy to find in the dark due to its ever-present glowing nostrils. Like J626, this entity's main weakness is water, but not due to drowning, as this creature can hold its breath significantly longer than J626. J619 instead becomes weakened when water enters its nostrils, as this can douse its reactor, temporarily making it unable to use any projectile attacks. The creature does still have a very durable shell and can do some melee damage, but is much more manageable to restrain when its nose is handled. Item number SCP-J300. Object Class: Euclid. Primary Function: Terrorize. Special Containment Procedures. J300 is to be housed in a cell with all standard enhancements, from psionic nullifiers, reinforced walls, soundproofing, and so on. Only personnel who have gone through extensive fear resistance training are permitted to enter its containment. They are to be well briefed beforehand that if it is evident from those observing through the cell's cameras that the entity has managed to terrify the entrant, then the cell will be locked and the personnel inside will be left to the whims of the entity. Description: SCP-J300 is an amorphous blob of green slime that has a resting appearance as a 2-foot-tall bipedal creature. It can transform its shape into any form and is capable of completely disguising itself as whatever it chooses, save for its eyes. In every form it has been observed to take, it still has glowing green eyes. It can cover these with glasses or hair hanging over it, but this is a consistent way to spot the creature in an alternate form. As its primary function is to incite terror, the forms that the creature most commonly takes is that of the greatest fear of whoever is before it. We believe the creature has the ability to see into the minds of its victims, though this specifically is not stated in Jukiba's writings. Seemingly its only weakness is that if a person can overcome their fears, the creature is significantly weakened and reverts to its resting form. Through further study of Jukiba's notes, we discovered he created this creature partially using samples of the ever-pleasant SCP-999, sometimes childishly referred to as the Tickle Monster. While J300 has proven to be largely hostile towards any Foundation personnel, and really any being it has crossed prior to being apprehended, we have since seen some glimpses of evidence that SCP-999's demeanor has come through in this entity. J300 was one of the experiments freed by J626 and the girl it has tricked into working with it, and J300 did seem to show some genuine gratitude for being freed. With the creature proving to have some traces of morality, we believe once recaptured we may be able to convince it to aid the Foundation, as we have with other of Jukiba's experiments. Thoughts on this are still being workshopped, but the idea has been suggested that it could be used in exposure therapy to help train deep-seated fears out of agents looking to become more resilient in the face of horrific circumstances, which are obviously a common occupational hazard while working for the SCP Foundation. Still, this can only be further studied once the creature is back in Foundation containment. Finally, for today, we will cover item number SCP-J513. Object Class: Safe. Primary Function: Geological Disruption. Special Containment Procedures: J513 is to be kept in a standard-sized cell with high-grade shock-absorbing walls and floors, along with radiation suppression. A set of bongo drums are to be kept in its cell at all times, and personnel are only permitted to enter when it has calmed itself by playing the instruments with its tail. Description: SCP-J513 is a quadrupedal purple dinosaur-like entity. Specifically, it resembles an ankylosaurus, but stands at only 3 feet tall and 6 feet long. It has near impenetrable scales and a thick tail tipped with a wide triangular plate. This is its primary weapon and potential for destruction. J619 can slam its tail against the Earth with such force that it can start earthquakes, having thus far created ones as dangerous as magnitude 7.6. According to Jukiba's notes, the entity was created to seek out fault lines and repeatedly slam its tail against the Earth. Doing so at one of these locations would set off a chain reaction that could cause earthquakes worldwide and eventually shatter the Earth itself to pieces. From scans of the creature's body, it is unclear how it is able to produce such force with a relatively small size, but we believe the impact alone is not responsible for the earthquakes. Instead, that the creature's body gives off a form of seismic radiation when it strikes the ground, which then helps commence the quakes. The creature has thankfully been proven to have a more easily calmed demeanor than some of the other entities discussed. It was noticed early in its cell to be thumping its tail in a beat, as though it were playing music to keep itself entertained. To test this theory, a set of bongo drums were placed into the creature's cell to see what it would do. The first drum, the creature destroyed with a single strike of its tail, but it then seemed to realize it needed to strike the drum lighter. It tapped the second drum with a much softer strike, and seemed quite elated when the tap produced a sound. The creature has since taught itself to play a few interesting beats, and spent much of its days playing music until it was recently released by J626. We have seismologists tracking unexpected quake activity, and will hopefully be able to use this information to recapture the creature before it does any significant damage. Now, before we wrap up today, I should acknowledge that along with redirecting field units to search for the escapees, the O5 Council has seen fit to make a deal with Dr. Jukiba. Despite his past treachery, they have currently tasked him with creating one final experiment, numbered J627, his most powerful yet, specifically to find and capture J626. Many of you may react to this information as I initially did, thinking that Dr. Jukiba has well and truly proven himself to be a traitor not worthy of our trust or resources, but we must all remember that the O5 Council knows best. The Overseers always know best. Anyhow, that is all the time we have for today. Good night. Hopefully people agree with me on this, but I feel like with Stitch, I hit just that right line of making him a bit creepy to make him more SCP-like, but still kinda cute looking. Very pleased with this episode. I do think I like it better than the first one. Though I like the first episode as well, and if you're new here, you might want to go back and check that out, or maybe my Pokemon as SCP series. Also, all the art and inks from this episode are up on the PopCross Studios Patreon, and the art and inks from the next episode coming Friday will be up there early on Thursday, so if you want a sneak peek at that, you can check out the PopCross Patreon, linked in the description. But besides that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring note, and the thought I want to leave people with today is from a man named Charlie Rocket, who's got a very interesting story himself, but he says that when he needs to pick himself up and uplift himself, he just starts saying that every little good thing that happens is proof that he's on a winning streak. You find a parking spot quickly, I'm on a winning streak. You find a penny on the ground, I'm on a winning streak. Heat your food to the right temperature to eat it right away, I'm on a winning streak. Just saying that to all the little things will set your mind up to be actively looking for good things that are happening to you. And then eventually you won't just be seeing small things, you'll be seeing big good things, and probably ignoring some of the small things that could frustrate you if you were focused more on the negatives. I hope that's inspiring to someone out there. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next episode on Friday. Goodbye.